did Zach teach you about swag today?
Not much. Did you see what he was wearing out there? Zach's a good kid. It's fun to see him. I got to talk to him various times throughout the off season. It's good having these guys in. I've known Coach Sala for a while, played against him obviously a number of times. Him and Matt are close. The offensive coordinator, I think, is close to Matt as well. So, yeah, it's fun having these guys in. You got to see Josh Johnson. Haven't seen Josh in a while. Greg Van Rotten. Got some good nicknames for him over the years. Had some good videos of him. Quite the dancer. Quite the dancer. But, yeah, it was a good day.
Aaron, why, this is such a different tone than I just looked up our stories from a couple of years ago. I wouldn't mind if they didn't do it for another 14 years, you said, with the joint practices. Why are these better?
Tom just told me out here, he said, do not go scorched earth about joint practices, so I'm trying my best. Look, I've never been a huge fan of joint practices, but I think I've said as well, there is merit to certain aspects of it. It is nice having this defense, which has been going around the league now a little bit more, in this week. It's also nice, the coaching connections, with Robert and Mike, and then so many of our coaches know other coaches on their staff. So that part's nice. They have good defense. One person who's inflicted a lot of concussions on our guys, so that's probably the only thing I was worried about. Mr. Davis has one of the hardest heads, I think, in the NFL history. But we got some good work in today. I'm not sure what it was like down the other end, but our end seemed to be good tempo, and it was physical. There's some conversations about some of the practice tempos, but I feel like overall no fights. Matt's pretty happy about that. I'm not sure what Robert's been telling us guys, but it looked like we're avoiding fights, which is good.
It seemed to be getting a little chippy. You mentioned Mr. Davis. Did you take any offense of anything that happened out there, or was it all fair game?
I've been working on myself, buddy. Did not take offense about anything. So I try not to take any offense. What happens a lot of times is, there's conversations on the field, and somebody runs off the field, and the conversations continue, and guys kind of walk over in that direction. So a lot of times I like to put myself kind of between the two conversations as they start to escalate a little bit. Every now and then I get myself caught in conversations I don't want to be in because of that. So interesting dilemma there. But no, it wasn't heated at all, which is nice. They did a good job. They were really getting off the ball. Their D-line, I think, is a good. It's good for our young guys to feel that pressure and that get off from those guys. They got really good backers as well. They're young in the secondary, so it's good for them probably seeing, a veteran quarterback and me trying to manipulate them with their eyes. So there was, regardless of what Tom said to me in the side room, there are a lot of things to be learned through this. It's just I always have the fear about guys getting hurt, compromised positions, and then unnecessary fighting. So we got through today, and hopefully we'll get through tomorrow.
Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will, but I thought your other issue in 19 was John Pagano was on the Texans staff. You guys were playing the Bears to open with Chuck Pagano as their defensive coordinator, and you did a bunch of vanilla stuff in practice when you were learning a new offensive scheme. If that is an accurate depiction of one of your issues you had last time, is it different this time around with the belief that Sala and Matt's own brother aren't going to be sharing information with upcoming opponents? Are you able to do more under these circumstances?
Yeah, I think my issues was more, we had a red zone period, and they dropped 8 a bunch of times in a row. And there's not a lot of work to be accomplished in that situation. If you look at my career in the red zone, dropping 8 has not been something that's worked out very well for the defense. So I don't think that'd be in the plan for them. And then it was clouding everything up, and I just thought it was just a total waste of a period. The good thing is when you have Robert and Matt, who are best friends, and Matt's brother Mike, there's some cross script conversation. So if we need a certain look, or we'd like to see a certain look in a certain play, we can get it. Also, it was anything but vanilla today. You know, they ran a bunch of different fronts. They ran pressures, safety pressures, backer pressures. They had some great checks. It's a different feel. You know, when Robert got the job, I actually was FaceTiming with Matt and got to like congratulate him. So there's a different type of respect based on knowing each other, I think, with this group that's in town. We just I don't think knew a lot of people in the Houston staff, and it's just a different way of approaching the practices.
Aaron, has this been one of the faster starts to training camp for you personally that you can recall? And without playing any preseason games, how do you make that judgment? I mean, I know preseason isn't great for strategy, but you get to play a little bit a lot.
Yeah, I was going back, and I think the last time I played was in 2018. Tom, is that right? Thank you, Tom. I hit my quota there. But the preseason has really been about the practices for me for a number of years. And this year, you know, I've been pretty efficient in camp. It helps. I think the thing you got to look at is the third year in the system. Last year, there were so many different changes from years 1 to year 2. It really took kind of one play or one practice kind of mid-camp at Lambeau to where I kind of hit my stride personally. This camp, I've been feeling really good from the start. The off-season work and the rest, both mentally and physically, I think allowed me to come in a really good mindset. But I'd also been throwing a decent amount, not always to like football receivers, but my guys in the, you know, Al Harrington, those guys, you know, catching passes for me. I felt really good coming in where my arm was at. And, you know, we've been pretty efficient in practice against a new scheme. So I'm happy where we're at on the perimeter up front. You know, we have some things we got to clean up though for sure, and there's definitely jobs to be won.
Aaron, I saw you chatting with all the Jets quarterbacks, including Ashwell and James Morgan. Did you get a chance to say much to him? Is that the first time you met him? And when
He went to Ashwaubenon?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I really didn't. Because of the similarities in offenses, I wanted to hear kind of the play calls, just to see what kind of carryover there was. And also I wanted to talk to Mike and Zach kind of about the operation a little bit. Obviously I've been around a long time and called my own 2-minute for a number of years, well over a decade. So I wanted to give them a couple things to maybe think about in their own. You know, he's a first-time coordinator. He's a first-time starter. There's just some things in the operation that I felt like I could help with, and that's, you know, I hope Getsy's not upset with me. Both times in the special teams periods, I went over and talked to the quarterbacks. I just wanted to, you know, talk with Zach and James and Mike and Josh, just because that's the best part about this, is just getting to see other guys you know about or get to meet and talk ball with during that time. It's fun.
Hey, Aaron, between year 1 and year 2 in this offense, there was a lot of, all right, here's what I like, here's what I like, here's what Matt likes. Now that we're 2 and 3, can you kind of characterize the expansion or anything else with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more of whittling down. You know, the scheme came in like this, and we tried to do as much as possible. I tried to add in some of my stuff over the years, and you know, in the off season that first year, we just kind of threw it all up on the wall and said what worked and what didn't work, what fits the scheme and what doesn't fit the scheme. Do we have the players to run these certain routes? If not, let's get it out. And year 2, you saw a real good focus on exactly what we have the personnel to, what plays we can run with those guys. And this year, just an even greater focus of that. An expansion in certain concepts where there's latitude to adjust routes or concepts. And then obviously we always make room for creativity, whether it's myself or Hackett or Matt, or sometimes the beauty in preseason is you're watching the 2s or 3s go and somebody's has the wrong split or the wrong route and it turns into a new play. We've had a number of those over the years where a guy runs the wrong route and shoot, a couple weeks later, that's the new play. We had a receiver here that retired, number 80, and he ran a route from the wrong split. shoot, it's now in the offense. You know, it's kind of stuff that happens. Jermichael Finley back in 2011 or 12, I think it was 11, we were playing the Giants, and we had a run where he was supposed to cut off the backside end, and instead he inserted in the B gap, and it was just like it looked like a lead draw type of play, and that became our go-to short yardage play for years. And that expanded that package. We went to being able to do 5 different things off of that, just because J-Mike, instead of blocking the end, went through the B gap, and it looked like a great play, you know? So that's kind of the beauty in training camp sometimes.
Aaron, I was wondering if you could clarify something from your opening press conference in camp. When you talk about wanting involvement with matters related to your job, is it enough for you just to have a conversation, have your voice heard, or do you expect to have those conversations turn into action? And along those lines, would you like to see Clay come back as a Packer?
Should have just asked that part. Yeah, Ryan, I think the conversation is the most important thing. I'm, always pride myself on being reasonable and rational. Sometimes what I think is best might not be best, based on gathering all the evidence and all the opinions and hearing thoughts from different people. Just to be in the conversation would be a great start. And that's kind of what I've expressed since February. There's a lot of conversations about football stuff and what might not seem like football stuff that does affect my job. And I enjoy just at least being aware of the conversations. In the conversations is an even better position to be. And then actually having an opportunity to maybe impact the decision is great. Friday night, I was with Dave and his lovely fiance, Frankie, and the Cobbs. And we had a question about Clay that came up because Clay just moved, moved from California. And so we got Clay on the FaceTime. Those conversations turned into a social media post. There hasn't been, I don't think, a big push from any of us to sign him. We didn't even talk ball. We were just kind of BSing with him, having a good conversation. But he's a big farmer now. I'm not sure. He's kind of like Jordy. I don't even think, probably got that strength to be able to play, but I don't think I've thought about football in a while.
Aaron, can I ask you, every time your name comes up on some show, it's Aaron Rodgers. You don't want to cross that guy. He holds a grudge. He uses it for motivation. That's a chip on his shoulder. Where did that come from? Does that come from that 60 Minutes? Spoon?
Spoon, yeah.
Does it come from that 60 Minutes story? And is it true? Do you use revenge for motivation?
It's never been about revenge. It's about a reckoning.
Got teed up pretty well.
Thank you.
What's the difference?
Ask my man Doc Holliday.
Like that movie, The Revenant?
Hmm?
Like that movie, The Revenant?
The Revenant? I'm talking about Tombstone.
Going back to Ryan's reference there for a second, when you went down that list of guys, that first press conference.
I left out a couple, too. I feel bad.
But you mentioned 3 wide receivers, right? Jordy, James, and Cobby
Mhm.
came back. I'm wondering, in your mind, and you didn't even mention Jake, but do you believe that there is a significant difference in a wide receiver when he's playing with you versus when he's not? And if so, in what ways do you think there is that difference?
Well, it depends on where they go afterwards. I think my resume speaks for itself, but also the way that we train receivers in the conversations, we're having high-level QB receiver conversations. A lot of offenses don't have the space for that. You talk to guys who go other places who have questions about things within the offense, oftentimes get shot down by an offense coordinator with an ego that doesn't want to hear that anything about their system has flaws or holes that maybe were fixed in our system. Now, we had the good fortune with Mike of being in the same system for 13 years. So we revolutionized things over and over. And, we're at the front of the curve, and then people caught up and then readjusted what we were doing. And we had years and years to work similar concepts, to master them and to add to them and to figure out the intricacies and the details in them. I don't think that goes on. I know that doesn't go on in every other offense. You talk to guys who've been other places, there's not the same type of detail or understanding of concept that we've had over the years. It's been passed down in the West Coast system for a number of years, always about the efficiency of the play and the intricacies of said play, which is why some of the greatest plays in West Coast offense history have been sometimes not even the primary receiver, but just understanding of that concept and how to get the most out of it depending on the look. And I don't think offenses really train that way. You've seen across the league there's less and less onus on quarterbacks for protection, for adjustments, for audibles. A lot of these schemes are fit and play. There's less and less guys who do stuff at the line of scrimmage, who do any type of protection adjustment, who even read a front or tie a front to a backer alignment, to a safety alignment, understanding pressures that could possibly come from that, coverages associated with that type of front. It's just kind of unheard of. It's a lot of schematic stuff and plugging guys in. That's just not the way I was trained. Thankfully, Matt's been, very pliable on a lot of those things where I can insert some of my knowledge of protection schemes that Tom Clements and I trained for hours and hours starting in 2006. But I think that's part of the difference in playing here and playing with me and playing other places.
Aaron, we asked you about your wide receivers last time we talked to you. What do you think you have in terms of weapons at tight end and running back this year?
Well, I think that there's, even at receiver, there's a lot of things to be figured out. Obviously getting Big Dog back is great when you have that on-the-ball wide tight end who can dominate in the run game. Robert Tonyan had a great season last year. And then there's a lot of guys with opportunities behind those guys. DeGuara coming back from a knee injury, and Jace, another year in the system. I thought Nada was doing some nice things before he got banged up. A big fan of Kafusi. He's obviously made a change from defense to offense, and he's got a ways to go, but there's some opportunity there for those guys behind because, and Daphne as well coming back from his injury and playing a little bit last year. Matt would love, I'm sure, to keep 4 or 5 of those guys, for teams and for the 12 personnel stuff we like to do. At running back, it's the same type of thing. You got Patrick Taylor coming back from an injury and Dex another year in the system and drafted Hill. Obviously, Aaron and AJ are going to be on the roster and going to play big minutes for us. But we need, those guys behind us to step up and show on special teams and, kind of see what they can do. That's the beauty in days like today, and you watch the film back and see what guys popped. But it's the same in receiver. There's, as you guys probably have documented, there's 5 guys who probably have a spot sewed up, and not sure if we're going to keep 6, keep 7. Do we keep 2 quarterbacks or 3 quarterbacks? It allows for extra spots at some of those places. If it is 6, there's a lot of guys in the mix. Obviously Funch had a big night the other night. Malik was on the active roster last year. EQ was on the active roster last year. Reggie did a nice job on the P squad most of the year and has come back and been a better player. Jawan Winfrey has had one of the better off seasons, one of the most improved guys. So there's a lot of opportunity for those spots. That's the exciting thing. Every year there's anywhere from 35 to 40 kind of spots that seem to be pretty locked up, but it leaves for some that 13 to 18 range of players that can make a roster spot.
I can't wait
Two
to see
more in
what-
person, guys.
I can't wait to see what Kafusi does in Buffalo this year. But anyway, if you didn't know Morgan was
Jeez.
from Ashwaubenon, did you know Cole Van Lanen's from Bayport?
I did, yes. Go Pirates, yes.
How much of a comfort level,
Thank you.
how much of a comfort level have you been able to establish with Josh, and just how these 2 days, how can they help in that regard, since he gets to take any steps from the game?
Yeah, I'm not going to say any more things nice about Josh. I don't want him to go to his head. And Corey again is telling me I'm being way too soft on him, but he had a rough day today. He did. This is good learning experience for him. A new defense, not guys in similar spots, different numbers of IDs to make. But every one of these opportunities is definitely a good thing to lock away in the memory banks. And today, mentally, I don't think he was as sharp as he's been in the past, and expect him to bounce back tomorrow. But overall, he's done a really nice job. I mean, he really has. He's comfortable in that position. But, we need to see the consistency when I'm in there because things move a little bit quicker. It's a quicker tempo just against our defense compared to, bringing a team in for some practice like this, which is probably, as fast as a preseason game, but the regular season gets picked up even more. And we gotta get him thinking as fast as I can think.
Are we counting Rob's joke as a question?
Last one in person.
Okay, so last year, it was pretty clear that you and Tim and all the guys were having a really good time. And then we asked you a few times during the course of the season via Zoom whether you were savoring the year more, and maybe things you would have taken for granted previously you weren't, and that was very evident watching you. I saw what you said to Peter. Can you do that again? Is that a template for how you can approach this season? Because that is how you looked to those of us that were around you a lot last year. And in what ways can that help you get through this season?
Well, I mean, there's a lot in there to talk about. I don't look at it as getting through the season, though. I think that's the most important thing. I'm going to enjoy it like I enjoyed last year. The reason I said that and the reason I approached it like that was I just knew when the pick was made that the clock had started for sure. And I thought, unless there was something in the season that really made me feel like I'm going to be here past 2021, that maybe this would be my last year, because I didn't want to be going into a year with some sort of, as a lame duck, like I said. I just didn't think that was fair to what I've accomplished and what I mean to this team. And nothing really changed in that regard. So I went in the offseason thinking, man, that could have been it. I'm glad that I enjoyed every moment. I'm glad I led exactly the way I wanted to lead and looked for those conversations with certain guys that needed a pick-me-up at different times, and took the headphones off and enjoyed, the surroundings and the road trips and the time with the guys. So yeah, it's a good template for sure. I don't want a farewell tour. I don't know what's going to happen after the season, but I'm going to enjoy it with the right perspective for sure, and not look at it as I'm getting through this. I'm just going to enjoy the hell out of, all of it. That's why I think I have a slightly different perspective about these, practices with other teams. I had tongue-in-cheek with Tom, that's 4 Tom now, 5 actually, about going scorched earth. There is a lot of stuff to be gained from these type of practices. And I think for me personally, the perspective through some of the work I've done in the off season and just trying to just be more joyful and happier is going to allow this season to be really special and memorable, I think.
Jared, go ahead. We got 2 on Zoom.
Come on.
2 on Zoom.
Zoom.
Sorry, Aaron Nagler first.
Aaron, you said on a couple of occasions in the past that you consider yourself a bit of a throwback player. With that perspective, what do you feel, or how do you feel about the league cracking down on taunting? You've had a number of players do the belt at you in past years, and you've clearly gone back and made them pay for it. Do you think the league is kind of overstepping here?
I think, there was a lot of conversations about the no fun league for a while with some of the crackdowns on end zone celebrations. I don't know. I mean, it's such a subjective call. It's not every situation is not objective. Oh, that's taunting. I don't know. I think some of the call the other night was very soft to me and unnecessary. Hopefully they're getting out of their system in the preseason. I think the jawing and the trash talk has been a part of the league. I think when it crosses a line, everybody kind of knows what that looks like and expects a flag. But to be any type of demonstration, it seems a little bit much to me.
And last one, Bill Huber.
Hey, Aaron, sorry to keep you. This might be a small thing. You had a 2-minute touchdown today. I'm not sure that you've had one this camp. Bob said you had, but either way, Is it a big deal to get one? Is it a big deal to get one today, or is it just, you know what, this is training camp 16, you'll figure it out? I guess, what's your view on situational stuff like that?
2 minutes is always really interesting because it's such a pressure-packed situation. It's hard to replicate that in practice based on, especially for us, not having any officials out there, which is advantage defense, not being able to be tackled, which changes rush lanes and rush dynamics for a quarterback. And a lot of times in those situations, I'm working on certain concepts I want to see in those situations. Today, I kind of focused on let's get in the end zone, so maybe less stuff that I'm trying to work on or see, and more, how I would want to call it in the game. So I was happy we got in the end zone. It's always nice to score, but if we hadn't done it, it wouldn't have been a total loss at all. It is practice. It's important reps for sure, but the execution is the most important thing, and regardless of what period it is.